1. So recently my new coworker is a Kevin. I've never thought I would meet one, but here we are. It's a call center job, and for what it's worth, some processes are fairly easy to understand, but Kevin has a hard time grasping any of it, and can take up to quadruple the time to do so. He's a nice guy, but man, he blows us away with his stories. He can recognize on some level that he's a Kevin, but his misadventures are seen by him to just be bad luck. 2 major instances are where he almost died. Once, when he was in sports and wanting to get buff and healthy and knew he had to consume protein, meat, dairy, and all that good stuff. Well, what more efficient a way than to just throw protein, creatine, raw meat, milk, veggies, and eggs in the blender and chug it down every day. After a month, he ended up in hospital, almost with liver failure, due to the messed up, unprepared combination he was gulping. He just laughed it off, thinking he did a minor oopsie. And the other one was when he almost ended up losing his legs. He ended up going to Finland for a school program, and for a recreational activity, they went on a trail hike in winter to some mountains. See, we're from Mexico. Cold temperatures here are around 8 degrees centigrade, that's 46 Fahrenheit, if you measure with football fields. Snow is not something we're used to. He had some weeks to get used to snow in Finland. But he was really naive. He saw that the rest had geared up with boots to make the hike as any sane person would, considering the hike was a couple of hours long, below 0 degrees Celsius. But he had seen some people in town on warm days with sneakers, so he thought, yeah, his boots wouldn't be necessary. Oh, Kevin. Nobody really noticed his sneakers, as you don't due to high snow and minding your own step. When he started to feel some discomfort from his feet, he didn't give it much thought. After several hours, he couldn't say, no surprise from Kevin, his soaked and freezing feet were killing him, and almost reaching the destination, he finally spoke up. Of course, people were surprised he didn't wear his boots, and had him sit down and take his sneakers off to see if he had any injuries. Nope. Worse, both feet were already black due to freezing. They were stunned. And Kevin was just like, "Oh, that's funny," not realizing that he was about to lose his feet. The group just rushed down and sent him to hospital as soon as possible, and had to recover for more than a week. The doctor said if a little more time has passed, his feet would have necrosis, and would have needed to be amputated. And no, he wasn't a kid. He was almost 18 when it happened. We're still trying to comprehend how he is alive, but hey, at least we have more stories to look forward to. 2. Hey everyone, just for context, I am a hotline worker for my state's wildlife hotline, which means I get to see a lot of interesting people. Here are some of the most interesting stories I can think of. These are multiple Kevins. Not one and the same, by the way. First, Kevin found that his cat caught a bunny. Kevin contacted us to ask where to take it. Upon being told the closest rehabber was 20 minutes away, which is pretty good, Kevin said he would call an ambulance for the bunny. A human ambulance. Kevin was advised that this is not a good idea, and we got the bunny from him instead. Second, Kevina is a new mom who finds what she thinks is a baby opossum, who she says is probably too small to be on its own and needs milk. Kevina then explains that she can care for it because she's breastfeeding, and she breastfed it as well. She sends us an image of the animal. It is an entire, very confused rat, a wild rat. We took the rat from her. Rats bite, rats are fast, I still don't know what happened. Third, Kevin contacts us about an injured hawk. Asks what they eat because it looks hungry. Advised to take the hawk straight to rehab instead of feeding. Kevin says he will give the hawk his recipe of mashed potatoes, because it helps him when he's sick. Proceeds to get offended that we don't believe in his mashed potatoes. Proceeds to get offended that the hawk doesn't believe in his mashed potatoes either. Fourth, a possum brought into rehab in between 2 pieces of bread. Bread was in case he got hungry. Kevina brought in a possum sandwich. Fifth, Kevina spams us about an abandoned baby squirrel too small to be on his own. She caught him and is keeping him to give to a rehabber. Sends us an image, it is an adult chipmunk. advised that it was, in fact, a normal chipmunk. I was then educated that chipmunks are just baby squirrels and that I should respect my elders. Advised her to let the chipmunk go, which she did. 6th. Kevina contacts about baby bears. Says she doesn't see Mom, so she's going to rescue them. When told not to do that by any means, she argued that she knew best. She sent an image 10 minutes later of Mama Bear with cubs staring at her. Mom came out of nowhere when she tried to pet one. Nobody was hurt, miraculously. 7th. Kevin contacts us about 8 baby hamsters that seemingly appeared to him miraculously. When informed we are a wildlife hotline, Kevin argued that hamsters are wildlife because there's wild hamsters somewhere in the world. Told Kevin to take to a rodent rescue close to him. Kevin argued that hamsters aren't rodents, they're mammals. These are just a few over my first year. Most people are lovely, so don't lose your hope in humanity just yet. All of the animals either were fine or got into care, and as far as I know, they're all healthy and fine now. If you find injured wildlife, please contact your local wildlife rescue or wildlife hotline, if there is one. If you have any questions, let me know. 3. My coworker is a Kevin. He has a lot of opinions. He will casually insert some of his takes into conversation, which he usually starts because he's chatty but too dense to realize no one likes him. Here are a few of his opinions. Holly weird. Apparently, Hollywood is forcing actors and actresses to take hormones. Now there's biological men wearing women's clothing and biological women with beards. You can tell who's been infected by Hollywood forcing stars to take hormones by the way they walk. Men are walking like women and women are walking like men. Taylor Swift is actually a man because of the angle of her collarbone, and Christian Bale has been affected by being forced to take estrogen, which Kevin deduced when he watched how Christian Bale walked. He calls it Holly weird. Guns, and I quote, "I don't listen to the government. I buy guns and ammunition." Later in that same conversation, he said that he needs to learn more about guns because he's a bad shot. Vaccines. He proudly declared that he's been an anti-vaxxer since 2014 because he got the flu shot that year and then was sick with the flu for a month. Therefore, all vaccines are bad, don't work, and all have RNA in them, not just the COVID vaccine, they all have RNA. Weather and climate. Each country has their own weather, which is controlled by the government for population control. Certain U.S. states have more hurricanes, tornadoes, and earthquakes than others because the government is trying to control the population in those areas. Also, global warming is the biggest lie our government has ever told us. There's no data and no scientific backing. It's all a lie. Masks. I wear a mask to control my allergies because my workspace is obligatorily very dusty. One day, my allergies were shockingly fine, so I wasn't wearing one. He goes, "Those masks aren't good for you anyway. You breathe in plastic particles all day." I have a friend who got lung cancer from it. Even though the part about breathing in particles is true, why would you say that to someone? Especially considering he knows why I wear a mask. Additionally, the masks are dangerous because they're made in China. As if most things aren't made in China. He also used that as a segue to go on about how our government is at the hands of China and it needs to be exposed right now. Moon landing. The moon landing was faked and filmed underwater. All astronauts are actors and no one has actually been to space. World War II. Queen Elizabeth II was in on the Holocaust and allied with the Nazi Party. Flat Earth. You knew it was coming. The Earth is flat because the scripture says so. I don't know what scripture he meant. Panera Bread. Kevin believes that Panera Bread is forcing all its customers to pay with face identification and fingerprinting with malicious intent. Fear the evil Panera Bread. Note: Panera Bread is implementing in some stores the option for loyalty members to pay with palm print, and it is completely optional. Masons. Kevin believes he's part of a secret society. He believes Masons emailed him. When told that Masons don't email people for recruiting, he said, "They're more high-tech now." Non-conspiracy nonsense. Kevin likes to talk about the time a guy pushed him down some stairs. Most recently, he said he'd go back to the town where that happened and beat up the guy. A coworker said, "That's assault." And I said, "And battery," to which Kevin said, "You're right, and I'd still do it." 4. So in my year, there was this girl who was an absolute waste man. She was your stereotypical white girl, but like dumb to the max. I was always vaguely aware of her existence throughout my time in secondary school, but I only became exposed to her complete idiocracy within the last couple of years. It started off with small things like insisting that 3 divided by 3 equals 6, even when prompted with statements like "that's 3 plus 3, but eventually progressed to even more nonsensical questions like, "Do I look pregnant? But you can't look at my belly." Stuff that can be chalked up to not thinking anything through before saying it out loud. I'm guilty of that too, but that's not what sets her apart. For that, we have to get to my first personal experiences with her. Now, our school offered extra GCSEs to students who spoke another language natively that could be taken before year 11. Both me and Kavina happened to be native speakers of Polish, so we, along with like 6 others, decided we'd take the course together. Now, this was just a couple of lessons a week, not even for a whole year. They were only teaching techniques for answering questions and about concepts they'd be asking about. But our teacher had a bit of an inconvenient schedule, so a couple of students decided to do the course next year instead, when it would be more stable. Kavina also wanted to drop out of the course for this reason, but instead of telling our teacher that like a normal person, she decided to act out in her class and then lie to her parents and our head of year that she was being abused by the teacher and filed a complaint. Then just started skipping her classes when that failed. She wasn't doing very well in school besides that already, seeing as she had to take core studies too. In fact, when it finally came to exams, she had not bothered to revise at all and was frantically asking me about things during call-in, but not understanding anything I told her and just tried to tell me I was wrong somehow. In private, we even created a nickname for her, Wikipedia. This was originally done to not confuse her with another girl with her name. Kavina's name was Victoria, which is pronounced like Victoria but sounds like Wikipedia, if you try to read it in English. But now has an ironic meaning, because she is the opposite of an encyclopedia. There are also her failures socially. Kavina was also the kind of girl who loved to gossip about everything, but was terrible at it, and just kept ruining her friendships. Now, the people this concerned were not my mutuals, but I don't have the details of what exactly was said, and she would blurt out some pretty insensitive rants to her easily offended friend group, and then have the audacity to wonder why nobody liked her. She then proceeded to never take the hint, and continued to follow around her former friends who just didn't want anything to do with her anymore. On top of this, she had no idea how men work. One time, also during exams, she got bored of caring and decided she wanted to start gossip with me about another boy. She perked up and said, "Hey, you know that boy who only likes Ice Spice because of her butt?" I had to explain to her that this was her main appeal, and the same was true of many celebrities, which seemed to confuse her. The fact that she was oblivious to this was odd, considering there was a whole situation a couple of years earlier where she sent nudes to some older boy and bragged about it. The school eventually found out and got the police involved because she was 14 and therefore it was illegal. They had the boy delete his copy of the nudes and gave Kavina's parents a strong talking to, but unfortunately, our town's police force isn't very good and they neglected to check if the boy distributed the nudes. He did. My friend knows there's at least one guy who still has them. None of that taught her a lesson, apparently, because the following year, me and the same friend caught her in the park, on the bench with a guy who looked to be in his late 20s. We confronted her about the man, and they weren't even related. It was another rando she found on Omegle, and actually met up with him. I don't know if they actually did anything, but her absolute lack of internet safety is appalling, and I'm half expecting her to become a victim of something eventually. Now she's planning to go to sixth form to do health and social care, and some other things for A-level. The problem is, despite the place she applied to being a really good college, it's specifically because of their STEM departments, something she's not planning to do. So if she somehow has enough points to get in, she's going to be pretty disappointed. Results day will be the last I ever see Kevina, probably. 5. To preface, this was when I was in middle school. I don't know if this Kevin was stupid or just a terrible person, perhaps a typical misbehaving teenager, maybe a bit of each. He was born in America, but of Asian descent, though I'm not entirely sure of which part, so I'm not going to take a guess. In my social studies class, he would always end up being sent to the principal's office. Every single class. He liked to say the Islamic God's name in vain, on repeat, just to tick off the teacher. He would do it non-stop, then laugh his butt off about it. The teacher, who was white and female, told him the first time he did it that it was not okay, and that it was a very bad thing to say that name in vain, and extremely disruptive. But no matter how many times she told him to stop, he would never listen. I'm pretty sure he ended up getting expelled or something, because I don't think I saw him in 8th grade. If he didn't, he certainly didn't attend my school later either way. There was one time when we were learning about the different types of teachings. I believe this one was China, and we were talking about totalitarianism. My gosh, he was sent to the principal within the first 3 minutes of class, because our teacher was acting like a teacher would if it was taught in the style of totalitarianism. There was another class she taught that was so relaxing because he wasn't there that day, thankfully. He made it very hard to be able to concentrate on the teacher because of how much he would disrupt the class. It seemed like he always had to be the center of attention, even if that was negative attention. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to a Cacophony of Kevins 18. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please hit the like button, and or possibly leave a comment, as that lets YouTube know that you liked the video, and that they should recommend it to other people. If you'd like to support the channel and get early access to the videos, you can get them all on Monday. Then you can support me on my Patreon page, which is linked for you in the description. Support me there for as little as $1 or more a month. You'll also find links to my Discord server, as well as my merchandise store on Teespring. And if you'd like to support on a more one-off basis, you can do that by leaving a tip by clicking on the heart with the $sign underneath the video. And while none of that is ever required, I do very much appreciate the help. Thank you kindly. Okay. I don't think we have any other bits and bobs. I don't believe there's any shout-outs today, so let's move along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: have you ever partaken of something and genuinely not been sure if you liked it or not? I ask this because lately I've been watching the Interview with the Vampire TV show with Sam Reed and Jacob Anderson. I think that's their names? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's their names. And it's very well acted. I don't think it's necessarily always well written, but the cinematography, the lighting, everything is very well put together for the most part. Even the costumes are quite nice. But I am a very long time Anne Rice fan. Like many of us, I got into her work when I was a teenager, and I've enjoyed it fairly consistently, for the most part, ever since, and I'm 42, soon to be 43 now. So I'm watching this, and I just started season 2, and I'm honestly still not sure if I like the show or if I'm just watching it because I actually like the cast. I think it might be the cast, because Sam Reed is doing a very good job as Lestat, and Jacob Anderson is giving a different but still enjoyable take on Louis, although he definitely seems a bit more upbeat than I would expect Louis to be in the present-day scenes. I do like the interplay between him and Daniel, though. This isn't a review. That's something I may do later. This isn't a review. So it's just thoughts. Do you ever find yourself in that situation, watching something, enjoying parts of it, but not really sure if you enjoy it as a whole? I'm having a similar experience with Rent right now, actually. I've been listening to the soundtrack, I've been watching various performances, and I like a lot of the music. but I don't like any of the characters. Or rather, I don't like any of the characters for being the character. There are moments where I think, that was pretty cool. Then there's other moments where I think, I don't like you. But of course, that being said, it is worth considering that a protagonist doesn't necessarily have to be heroic. They just have to be believable as a character. Let me know what you think in a comment below, and before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And this one came from a Cacophony of Kevins 17, and today's answer comes from Emerald Angel. I follow VisiPop's channel. She created a show on YouTube called Hell of a Boss that I absolutely love. The quality and detail she and her team bring is phenomenal. She recently got greenlit for her own TV show Has-Been Hotel on Amazon Prime, which is also just amazing. I also watch reaction channels like Sorta Stupid, The Heck, and Not So Average Fangirl, to name a few. Thank you very much for your answer, Emerald Angel. And with that, I'm gonna head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for... Oh, I need caffeine. Thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.